Climate and Energy Minister Chris Bowen arrives at the global warming talkfest in Dubai today. This will be right up his alley, this show. A bunch of champagne-swilling climate action hypocrites escaping a freezing European winter for the warmth of the Gulf and telling the rest of the world what to do. And Bowen will be there pretending, yes, pretending, that Australia can power itself with wind turbines and solar panels. Now, the trouble for Bowen is at this COP28 talkfest, it's already seen a huge collection of nations commit to tripling nuclear power, recognising that it's absolutely imperative to boost nuclear if the world is to get to net zero emissions. But our Climate and Energy Minister, Blackout Bowen, well, he's a nuclear denier.
I can't think of a worse fit for Australia's energy needs than nuclear power. It's slow to build, the most expensive form of power available.
Well, while he's in the United Arab Emirates, Bowen should visit their massive nuclear power station. As I've told you before, even this oil and gas-rich nation has gone nuclear to supply a quarter of its energy because it wants energy security and, of course, it wants to reduce emissions. And to demonstrate the wrong-headedness and idiocy of Bowen's and Labor's position on nuclear, I thought it might be worth doing a little comparison. Let's compare the UAE's nuclear plant and the Snowy 2.0 project started by the Turnbull coalition government, continued under Labor. Construction began at the Barakah nuclear plant in 2012, and the first reactor was operational just 8 years later in 2020. All 4 reactors are now up and running. The cost was massive, probably about $30 billion in Australian terms, and it will generate, though, more than 5,000 megawatts. That's 5,000 megawatts 24/7 for the next 70 or 80 years. Contrast that with Snowy Hydro 2.0. Construction began in 2019, and it was supposed to be finished by now. But repeated problems mean it will be lucky to be operational by the end of the decade, 10 years after construction began. And it won't generate any extra electricity. It'll merely store energy from renewables for when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining. At its peak, this will supply 2,000 megawatts at certain times. And the cost? Well, it's already blown out from $2 billion to $12 billion, but then there's all the transmission lines to link it into the grid. Experts say the eventual cost will top $20 billion. And that's not including the renewable turbines and solar panels that will produce the electricity to feed into it, pump the water and store that energy. So the timelines are similar. In fact, nuclear will probably turn out to be quicker. The costs are comparable, although nuclear is much cheaper on this comparison per megawatt. And the nuclear option, of course, produces its power as added generational capacity, not storage. It's reliable and dispatchable 24/7, and it'll last for 70 or 80 years. It's a no-brainer. 2 massive nuclear plants in this country would cost less than half of what we've already spent on renewables, let alone the $300 billion or more still to come. Nuclear just makes sense, and you don't need to be a nuclear physicist to work that out.